mentioned, that is, every single form is exactly the same. There's the next section is the teamwork section, so it's how you interact with your team members, how you get along with your coworkers, etc. And then the last page is your job. It's your job description. So there are 500 different versions of this form because
well, I
every
understand
job
that
is different.
every job description is different.
That's right.
And I understand there's hundreds of them, but you say
500.
that. Okay. But there's different questions in each one of those?
Only the job specific one. Those are all the same. That last page, the only page that's different in each eval is the job specific criteria. So that one, like for instance, that is for the lead inventory specialist. So each position in our organization, including every management position, has exactly their job description there. And we took the top 7 things in your job description, asked the supervisors to kind of update them, like what are, not by person, but by position. So for instance, a 911 operator would have things related to 911. A firefighter would have things related to firefighting. A bus driver would have things related to driving the bus. I mean, every single job is different. And so we're just rating you on your job description. And that's why it's objective. It's your job description.
Will there be a page added to the end of that if you have a conflict with that you can complain?
You can always put in a rebuttal. Do you think that that's, there's...
I mean, it's attached to the form. If you just hand in a rebuttal, it could always get lost, right?
You can attach it to the form.
Okay.
You come to the HR and look in your file, make sure it didn't get lost. And bring an extra copy with you in case it did.
What weight would that rebuttal have?
Well, I guess it's the same weight in terms of, I don't understand what you say by rebuttal. Well, first of all, you have an opportunity in the contract already. If you don't agree with the eval and you think it was for some discriminatory, whether it's because of whatever, you can still come to the HR director, I think is in your contract, to talk about the evaluation.
Well, let's take a look at that.
Well, let's cut to the chase on that, because what you're really talking about and asking for, I believe, is there a right to grieve or otherwise appeal or challenge your evaluation? And the answer is no.
Okay.
I mean, and that's kind of the point. I mean, the concern.
But I will say this: the evaluation form is not like, okay. What I didn't like about the last eval was it's on a scale of 1 to 5, and the last one, or I think it was actually 0 to 100. And if you scored an 80, then you got X, right? You had a day off. If you scored a 79, you got nothing. Okay? And I'm very opposed to those type of forms because, well, for starters, it more often than not puts the supervisors in a position where they'll fill out an eval honestly, they just fill it out, it comes out, they add it all up to 79. They're not giving out a 79. They're either bumping up to 80, which is what most of them will do because they don't want to have that conflict with an employee, or it just forces them into a situation where they're not doing an honest evaluation. The way that this is, it completely forces an honest evaluation because none of the department heads know in advance what the merit increase is going to be. Because the merit increase is based on a bell curve, basically, where you're going to get a merit increase. It's just a matter of how much it's going to be, but you're only compared to all of the other people, right, that you're working with. So if it's, in your own organization, the higher performers will get, somewhere in the neighborhood of above a 4% total. The 2 plus some portion of the 2% merit could be up to 3, and lower performers will get some portion, but nobody gets nothing unless you fail your eval miserably, which you got to work with that. I got to tell you, because if you score below 2.5 on that eval, you have not done an admirable job for us. But if you're above that, you're going to get a merit increase, and it's just a matter of how much. And it's not a pass. In other words, it's not a oh, I don't like you, so I rate you down. You don't even know what there's no way as a supervisor to know what the raise will be, what the increase will be based on the evaluation score.
They don't have any way of figuring out this.
Nope.
How's that?
Because they can't know. They won't know until.
How are we supposed to know if they don't even know? I mean, what score does it take to get? First of all, you have two levels of performance. One is you described as a pass or go.
Yeah, so the first 2% is a COLA. It's a cost of living increase, but it is a pass-fail. I mean, if you fail your eval, you're on.
What is the score for that?
2.5.
Okay, so 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5 you get it. If it's under 2.5, you don't get it.
So how does this? If I know that now,
Mm-hmm.
how would a supervisor not know that if I don't give it a complete score, it's going to total to 2.5? that employee but once I give the 2.5, that employee's gonna get a raise.
Well, that's the same way you guys do it up in Hernando, so I don't know why you would be concerned about that, because that's the same, that's a pass-fail merit. You have to pass your eval in order to get anything. I mean, if you're gonna say that.
Do you want to pattern it after Hernando?
Nope, I'm just saying that your argument is that how would the supervisor know? I mean, I don't think that you're rejecting the merit portion of it, but the merit portion, I'm telling you, the supervisors can't know what the score, what the raise will be based on the score that they submit, because they're submitting it without knowing what the other people, the other supervisors are doing, what their department head is doing. Even the department heads really won't know, because it won't know until it comes into HR. We figure out the department average, we throw it on a bell curve, and we do that, and that's the only way, and it's all mathematical.
Well, in Hernando, if they get a 3.0,
Right.
that's considered meeting expectations, and they advance in their step plan.
Right, exactly, and if they get a 2.9, they don't.
Well, they file a grievance, and that happened only once. A guy got a 2.99, and a grievance was filed, and it wasn't a supervisor, it was the department director, could not explain why that employee only deserved a 2.99. He could not even articulate an answer, and so that employee was given the increase anyway, and so.
To me, 2.99 should have been rounded to 3, but whatever, I mean, I'm not gonna get into.
I know, well, it makes you wonder, but I mean, if that was the only case that we had with that, and everybody moved
So
the
then
step
it's
that got
not.
over that, so if that's the direction you wanna go in.
No, I'm not suggesting that, I'm saying that your point was that how can a supervisor, they'll know the 2.5. I mean, everywhere we go, if you fail your thing miserably, and ours isn't a 3, ours is a 2.5. And it's the same, well, it was the same form.
Well, my comment was based on the fact that you said supervisors can't possibly even know what the employee is going to get.
They
based
can't
on
know
what
the
they-
merit portion. You're right, they can know the COLA portion. If they want to fail their eval, if the supervisor feels that the performance is so low that the employee has flunked their eval, then absolutely, they can know that.
The
But you just said.
supervisor's not filling out the merit portion at all.
No, not at all. Nope. They fill
Well,
out the eval.
Whoever's completing the merit portion obviously has access to the eval section.
Okay, now, let me be clear. It's not a separate section. It's the form itself determines what the raise is. But it's not like I can tell you, oh, if you give them a 4, they'll get this, and if you give them a 3.3, they'll get this. They don't know that. There's no way to know, because the calculations are done after all of the evaluations are turned into human resources. It's blind for the supervisors. So all they're doing is filling out the form. They have no idea what the raises will be.
But if using the form that was provided here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees of performance.
Right?
It's natural to understand that if a person's not leaning at least toward the middle or greater, but they're probably not going to pass their performance. That if they're going from the midpoint and lower, that they would probably be getting a hit, so to speak, monetarily. That's just common sense. So I know what you're saying about.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay, I'm not
that's.
adding up, I'm not looking at the far column, but I'm gonna give you a 1,
You
2,
can, they will see the,
1, 2,
they will
2,
see
1.
they will see the far column. They're gonna see the 4s and the 5s and the 3s and the 2s. They're just not gonna know what that means. And as far as a raise, to your point, they may know that if they rate the person under a 2.5, they're not gonna pass, and therefore they're not gonna get anything. But they're gonna have no idea that if they give the person a 3 or a 3.3 or a 3.8 or a 3.1, they'll have no idea what that means for merit increase.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Sorry I came in late. PCPT,
Yeah.
last year when they did the evals, we had too many meet over expectations, so they had to redo them.
Well, not
And then-
based on my.
And then I got mine done.
Yeah.
I put in a rebuttal,
Oh, so that's what-
and I called HR to say, look, I want to rebuttal it, and they said, sorry, that's all you're getting. You can't come, if you want to come in, you can come in, but it ain't gonna make a difference on your raise.
And it's bad enough to hear that.
Wait, because let me address that. It doesn't make a difference on your raise. We didn't tie raises to performance evals in the past, so that can't have happened. And in terms of the rebuttal, we always accept the rebuttal to the performance eval. So I don't know, I mean, you could, right now, if you want to put a rebuttal in from your 2016 eval, you can absolutely submit a rebuttal. We'll put anything in your file within reason,
I have, hopefully it's in my file.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna say-
let me ask this, so if October 1, the raises are to go into effect, what evaluation are you using?
They're due to my office October 29th, September 29th. They're due September 29th. I have the weekend to basically put them together in the following week. I put them on a bell curve, the spreadsheet, all that good stuff. I determine what it is, and they were set to go in effect.
Okay, but when were those evaluations given?
They're doing it right now. They're all going out to the employees right now.
Can I say something?
No. Is he on the bargaining team? No.
You can whisper in his ear and he'll ask, what's the difference? I mean, you really don't want to hear from him?
Go
Just
ahead.
let him know and give it to one of our community members. Well, I mean, you hear stuff like that, and you just brush it off, Barbara, like it's no big deal, it's not attached to money, who cares? Well, first of all, it doesn't affect an employee's
Because
work
what
record
she
if they ever wanna
said,
be-
the reason that I said that is because she said, and therefore my raise wasn't able to be changed. It's not an accurate statement. So you want me to let that go and go, oh yeah, you're right. It couldn't have happened. We didn't tie raises to performance evals last year. So you can't say it happened to me before.
Can I throw in a comment, given your response, is that my coworkers and I, fairly recently, somewhere around the time of the benefits seminar, we were all talking about our experiences and the responses we get when we call human resources over the course of a long time, whether it's about benefits, whether it's about days off or whatever, whether it's about policy or things like that. We have all said we all get a different answer depending on who we spoke to, no matter what it is. And a lot of times, benefits are denied on that basis.
Can you give me an example of that, please?
Well, it's just that we all had
No, not we
stories.
all. I mean, give me one example of when that's happened. One example. So that I can address it. Because I can't address, we all call and we all do this and benefits have been denied. So what benefit was denied? What specifically happened?
I would just say that at least all of the employees that I have worked with have talked about benefit applications that they've handed in, whether or not it was meant to be paid for the sick leave that they didn't use, or how to process something. Each time, they got a different answer from whoever it was that they spoke to. And I can go back and ask them to list all those situations.
I would be curious to just have one, because I have no idea what you're talking about,
Well,
so I mean.
unfortunately, what happens is they get reluctant to do that. And I've kind of told them that we are here to address that, like I've always said. We are here to sort of have their backs at this point when there are disagreements as to what was actually said in policy. But I can tell you, every person that I've worked with, we've talked about whether it happened recently, whether it happened years ago, whether it happened a year ago. There's a different answer for the same questions we all have.
Can you give me an example of a question that,
whether it's regarding their insurance, whether it's regarding the amount of, what deduction will be taken from their paycheck, what the cost of something is, whether or not they, I guess, have time left, whether or not they can get, tuition reimbursement approved, whether or not they can get approved for having additional educational requirements for their position, things like that, and those are just general things, but some are very specific.
well, like I said, if that comes up, I'd like to hear some of those, because I have never heard any of those things, and I haven't heard a single complaint from any employee that, and what you're describing is all stuff on ESS. Do I have time, my benefit deductions, so I don't know what question's been asked that you got a different answer to, because, what is the deduction amount for this is all written down, it's all on paper. So I'm just confused about what that
I do
could
know
be.
a few coworkers who had to have paperwork redone a number of times because they felt their paychecks weren't calculated correctly. But it's just, you know, whether it's a benefits question or whether it's a policy question. And like I say, people don't like to address it or bring it higher. And I wish that they would, because, as I've said, you wouldn't know, but we know. And that's why unfortunately the reputation goes out that perhaps sometimes the county will just do what it wants to do and not necessarily go by what an employee expects or thinks they deserve. You know, so, you know, and by organizing the union, we are trying to impose a process for that, and impose a process by which staff feels comfortable doing that. The previous complaint, and it's still a complaint, is that employees feel afraid of retaliation from their supervisors. And that was a common practice in the past, and it's still a common practice.
Can you give me an example?
I could give you one that happened just yesterday. I emailed you twice, you never called me back. You called my boss to find out what was going on, and you never called me back, you know.
I didn't know the answer to the question that you asked me, because I had to find out.
Right,
I did email you back twice to.
Right, so after the
clarify what I was trying to-
second time, you went to my boss to find out, instead of picking up the phone and saying, but here, that's what the whole thing is, what Pam's talking about. Those two people were
Right,
fearful of
Yeah.
retaliation.
I called your boss because you asked me a question.
Did you hear what I said?
responded.
I said, those two people were in fear of retaliation. Okay, so you wanted an example. The two people I emailed you about.
Retaliation for what? How were they retaliated against? You said that people have been retaliated against. How were they retaliated against?
They were fearful of it.
I-
Barbara, that's
I-
what it was.
They were removed
They were
from
fearful.
assignments.
All right,
They lost favor
we're
with
gonna take a
their.
break, and we're gonna
Yeah.
come back and we're
Yeah.
gonna respond to the issues
They
that-
lost favor with their
that you
supervisors.
raised.
Before you take a break,
We're gonna focus back on the language of the contract.
Before you take a break, Dr. Scholar, I just have a point of clarification. So I heard from Barbara, and I got a note from Lance about these evaluations. Sometimes people aren't even getting them, or they haven't gotten them for a while. There's people who fall through the cracks. So you're telling me that if we were to agree to this today and got it, and we're not, but if we did it and voted it, that by October 1, that you would somehow be able to give new evaluations for every single employee that works for the county.
Yeah, who hasn't gotten an evaluation?
Well, Lance Messer, one that you didn't want to talk.
He hasn't gotten an evaluation?
Nonsense. Last year, I think October 1st.
At the annual evaluation time?
So the question is whether we'll be able to put it into place by October the 1st?
Well, the question is.
Whether everybody's evaluation and the members of your bargaining unit will be done?
No, the concern
That's
is,
our goal.
Yes.
the concern is that you're relying upon evaluation that happened earlier in the year. That's the question. Are you, or are they all?
So let me
going to be-
clarify. Okay, there's only one annual evaluation.
When did they
Okay.
occur?
October of 2016, October of 2017, it's once a year, they're done in September. So, and actually this year we put a little bit earlier timeline on it because of the merit-based component of it.
Aren't there
Generally,
quarterly reviews?
okay, let me explain. Then departments are to sit down quarterly, and they don't have to do an evaluation. It's not an evaluation. They're supposed to sit down, go over goals. Some of them do it much more informally than others. Some of us, some people have more daily contact. But the annual evaluation is once a year, and it's only done once a year. So to his point, he received an annual evaluation to say that it's not being done, that it's only done once a year.
Okay, well, he hasn't got one, so that's probably a separate issue.
Yes, he did. He said he got one October 16. That was the last
In a
annual
different
evaluation.
September 16th? Okay, so that was his last evaluation. So it's safe to say, since today is September 1st, that not a single person that works there has an evaluation that's going yet
Right.
to be considered for these increases that are in your proposal.
Likely, they have not, some of them may have received an eval, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, some departments do more formal quarterlies, and the reason they do that is so that they can just use that and, and that's, I'm not gonna say it's a better way to do
That's not consistent with what you said. I mean, you said
I-
October every year, people have
Right.
evaluations. This year, you bumped it up to September.
Right.
Today is September 1.
Right.
So say.
So
say-
during the next 30 days, everyone will be evaluated, and all the forms will be turned back into Human Resources, and the answer to that is absolutely 100% yes. The only exception to that is if you're on probation, if you're a brand new hire, then no, because you don't get an eval until after you've been hired for 6 months. Nobody gets one of those.
Okay, did you have one question already before you guys clear?
Well, I have a concern if someone has a road supervisor and, actually, I'm gonna talk about myself for a minute. I was placed on a crew, didn't really like that supervisor. Now I have 2 bad evaluations and a stack of good ones. That's what he's trying to address. Is if you have a supervisor who wants to be unfair to an employee, we have no way to remedy that. And that's what he's trying to say here, and that exact thing happened to me for 2 years. I'm not on that crew anymore. But now I have 2 bad evaluations that this person gave me that doesn't like me, and I don't like that person, on a stack of good ones. If you go through my records, you'll see, in many cases, very good ones, and now you have 2 bad ones sitting on top of that stack.
Because of
But that's what he's
personality.
trying to say is, you know, what about that situation?
And that, I mean, that just kind of sums up the whole concern. You've heard it 100 times from us before, but it's just, it's personality driven, unfortunately. You know, because, how long have you been working here, Ray?
20 years, almost one, working on year 21.
And so that's where, the reason why I keep giving that knee-jerk responses. If a person's a problem child, well then discipline them. And then your response is, well, sometimes they're just not motivated, or that's where the disconnect is. And if they're truly problematic, discipline them. There's a union rep telling you, discipline them, they deserve it. But the thing is, a lot of times people get tanked on their evaluations and they don't get disciplined because they really didn't do anything wrong. It's just that the supervisor doesn't like them.
Okay, listen, you're not telling us anything you haven't told us a
Right.
dozen
No,
times.
we
I
just,
just wanna
we
make
just
sure-
disagree with
So
that.
you're just
law.
wasting our time at the moment. We're
Well,
gonna take a
you're wasting my
break.
time with your proposal.
We're gonna come back and we're gonna respond to the articles that you said you were prepared to TA and tell you whether we are.
And we'll waste it.
And then we'll see where we are.
It'll all be a waste of time. Two first, isn't it? Stings.
Well, we obviously have a difference in philosophy. Those,
What time you coming back?
3 o'clock?
okay.
About 3.
We're going.